For the last 3 years, we've been consumed by a president who frankly doesn't give a damn about your kids or mine. Mr. President, kids belong in classrooms, not cages. And they deserve something better than a bully in the White House.
That's Colorado Senator Michael Bennet going after President Trump directly at last night's CNN Democratic debate. A short time later, President Trump appeared to respond, falsely claiming that the policy of child separation has ended. Now, Senator Bennet joins us this morning. Senator, that statement you made, combined with many of the other things you said last night, seemed to indicate that you wish more of the focus in this discussion right now was on President Trump.
I think it's very important. I mean, he is the guy that's in the White House. In my view, he has violated every tenet of our democracy you can violate. And I think, as I said last night, just on the racism alone, every Democrat, Republican, Independent in this country should throw the guy out of here. And I think we do need to get our focus on.
So was there too much of the circular firing squad last night? Democrat on Democrat fighting.
It's early in our democratic discussion. Healthcare, I think, is a good example. My view on healthcare is that we passed the Affordable Care Act. We made a difference to a lot of people. We were on defense politically for 10 years. Then Mitch McConnell tried to repeal it. Trump tried to repeal it. We beat them, and we were on offense. And then Bernie right away then puts Medicare for all, and he introduces it. And a bunch of the presidential candidates sign up to be on it. And I think we're on defense again on healthcare, which is unbelievable to me because Donald Trump has spent his presidency taking health care away from millions of Americans. And that's where I think we should be drawing the line here.
We have a moment last night where you tried to talk more about health care, health insurance, so let's listen to that.
We need to be honest about what's in this plan. It bans employer-based insurance and taxes the middle class to the tune of $30 trillion. Do you know how much that is? That is 70% of what the government will collect in taxes over the next 10 years. We don't need to do that.
Governor, I'm going to come to you in a second, but I do want to
health care in this country.
I do want to bring in Senator Harris because he just suggested you were not being honest.
We cannot keep with the Republican talking points on this. You got to stop.
Were you saying that she wasn't being honest about it?
Well, I can tell you this. These weren't Republican talking points. This is Bernie Sanders' description of his own bill. Bernie said the other night, I wrote the damn bill, and he did. And he and I have very different views about where we should head on health care. He's got an ideological commitment to nationalizing our health insurance industry, and I understand that from his perspective. My view is that the American people want to make the choice for their families about whether they want to get insurance at their employer, if they can, or whether they want a public option. Think about what Bernie's proposing in terms of the employees at CNN. If he got what he wanted, everybody at CNN would have to give up all the insurance you get at CNN and pay a massive tax for the privilege of giving that up.
And Senator Kamala Harris is on board with that, it sounds like to you.
Yeah, she is, and Elizabeth Warren is as well. That's not a position that will unite Democrats, much less allow us to win in 2020. And we don't need to do it. Instead, we should have a public option.
Senator Harris, her plan's a little different than the Sanders or Warren notion because it would allow for essentially a Medicare Advantage option where you would be able to get a type of private insurance, maybe not your insurance. You don't like her plan either?
Well, there are a couple things. One, that's an answer on Medicare Advantage. So Bernie's plan takes Medicare Advantage away from 22 million older Americans who have Medicare Advantage and love it. So I think Senator Harris, in her latest iteration of her plan, has said, well, I'm going to let Medicare Advantage in some form remain. But she is still making insurance that you get at your employer illegal. And she's saying that it will take at least 10 years to get to universal health care in this country. You guys have seen what the debate has been over the last 10 years in health care. I mean, I think if we just have a public option, we can get to universal health care in this country in 2 years. So it seems to me that building on the Affordable Care Act, the work that we've already done, not taxing the middle class in this country at a rate that they will never accept is where we should head.
So how do you think last night went? Did you accomplish whatever you set out to do?
Yeah, I think it went well. I wanted to have the discussion about Medicare for all because I think it's very and the public option. I think it's important for people to understand that important distinction, certainly before we go into the general election. And I was glad to have some discussion finally about the importance of dealing with our education system in this country and the fact that, unfortunately, for kids today, our education system's reinforcing the income inequality that we have instead of liberating people from it, because the best predictor of the quality of your education is your parents' income. That is not the American way, and we need to change that.
Senator, the next debate requires a very high threshold for getting in, 130,000 individual donors at 2% in at least 4 polls. Where do you stand right now?
Well, we're not there yet, but on the other hand, and I think we will get there. I have always had tough races. You know, Colorado is a purple state. It's exactly a third Republican, Democratic, and Independent. I always barely win, and it's always a matter of one step in front of the other. And I think we actually are going to need to nominate somebody who's from the middle of the country, not from the coast. So I'm going to, as I always do, just try to outwork everybody, and I think we'll succeed.
You're almost wearing it as a badge of honor. I almost barely win.
It's true.
I know. I see a
but
pride
you know what?
here.
Actually, it's true. It's very different to have one of these jobs when you're in a state where, you know, it's deep, deep blue or it's deep red. It's very different when it's a third, a third, a third. And I actually think that it's one of the reasons why people in my state have so little patience with the partisan politics that we're seeing in Washington.
Do you think that some of this discussion, to that point, isn't reaching some of those voters who aren't on the extremes?
Well, for those voters, this thing hasn't even started yet. You know, for people that are raising their families, building their businesses, trying to do something useful for their community, this is not going to be something that they tune into for months. But every journey starts with a single step, and that's where we are today, I think.
Senator Michael Bennet, thanks so much for stopping
Thanks
by
for
a new
having
day.
me.
Great to
Great
have
to
you.
see you
We'll be
guys.
watching very closely.
Thank you.